You formed your LLC, you're operating with it, but how are you supposed to pay yourself? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hey, I'm Christina Scalera from The Contract Shop. I'm the attorney and founder there, and I'm here to talk to you today about some of the tax and payment considerations you want to make as you start to earn extra revenue and income from your business. It's time to do the fun stuff and get paid. So let's talk about how much and when that should happen. If you are operating with other people in your business, congratulations on getting your LLC. That was a smart move because you don't ever want to be liable for someone else's actions or money mishaps. So an LLC is a great way to protect yourself in any kind of partnership, whether you have one or multiple partners. And the important thing to note there is that if you do have a partnership with an operating agreement in place, as is typical for any kind of new LLC, you'll want to refer to that when you decide how much to pay yourself. So for example, if you and a business partner are 50-50 split, you're not going to be able to pay yourself more than 50% of the revenue that the business is bringing in. And if it further specifies 50-50 of the profit, then that's an even more specific thing to keep in mind as you're figuring out how much to pay yourself. It's also important to consider taxes. I know it's not fun, but it's certainly something that is going to have to be paid, and you don't want to end up with a giant tax bill. A great way that I've personally found to set aside money for taxes, I have two companies, and so in one, I'm actually on payroll, and that makes it really easy. But in just a regular old LLC, like my coaching business, that's a different YouTube channel, I actually pay myself as a distribution. And so whenever I need to take money out of my business bank account, I either write a check or just create a transfer into my personal account. And I always make sure to have a note for my bookkeeper so that she knows that that was a distribution. That wasn't me paying myself back because of maybe a personal loan I gave to the business or something like that. But going back to how I make sure that taxes are always paid is I will just take a 30 to 35%. 30 is a little bit less conservative. 35 is a little more conservative, depending on how much money you have coming into your business checking account and how risk averse you are. You can choose what percentage works for you, but basically you just want to skim a little bit off the top. And for me, this works really well on a weekly basis. And so I have that go into a savings account where I can't touch it, or at least it's very difficult for me to touch it. And then that way, every time I need to make a quarterly tax payment, I'm able to do so in a way that is very easy and the money's already set aside for that payment, so it doesn't hurt as much. Let's talk about expenses. There's a lot of different schools of thoughts on how to spend the money that your business makes. And in the beginning of my business, I was a lot more risk tolerant. That is, I would accept more risks than today. So today, as I'm making more in my companies, I'm actually more risk averse. I'm trying to save more. I'm trying to put more aside in case of emergencies. Part of that's also because of the pandemic. If you are trying to figure out how much to spend, a good rule of thumb is to consider what you need to live off of your business and how much you need to set aside for taxes. So if you set those two things aside every single week, then you get the rest of the money to play with. If you're following something more strict, like Profit First, obviously they are going to have specific percentages that you need to set aside for each category in your business, like hiring or outsourcing or Facebook ads and marketing and things like that. But for me, what I found was that by taking a smaller salary and spending more money on the things I needed to grow my business, it not only reduced the amount of taxes I had to pay because I ended up not being as profitable in the beginning, but it also helped me to grow and expand the business much more quickly. And those first few years of growth and development are really critical. That's why I think there's a lot of maybe predatory people out there that are trying to get you to capitalize on that momentum. But there is something to it where you do want to put as much into the business, back into the business as you can until it creates a more sustainable lifestyle for you because it's making more money and therefore it's easier for you to pull more money out of your business. Basically, expenses are going to be a really personal thing. For me, I just kept my expenses really high in the beginning of my businesses and that worked out pretty well. But if you are a little bit more risk averse, you're going to want to keep your expenses to a minimum and you're going to have slower growth, but you are also going to be a lot more confident in that growth because it's not going to be as volatile. Just to wrap things up, when it comes to how much you're going to pay yourself, we've obviously considered a lot lot of different things here. How much you need to live, taxes, and what kind of expenses you're going to be running into. These are things that are going to change over time, so what you pay yourself and how much you bring home every month might change as a small business owner. If you're struggling to find balance in paying yourself right now, let me know down in the comments and we can create even more great content around this. You'll also want to make sure you're subscribed because next week I'm diving into why you need an actual physical address for your LLC or whatever kind of business you are set up and running. I'm going to talk about all the ways that we are moving towards this and why you're going to want to pay attention to this now so that you don't have to worry about it later. I'll see you then.